All right, guys, today's video is on the value of production, and I've got several plants that I can do demonstrations on for production value. This not only applies to, let's say, corn or sunflowers. This applies to every species you plant is getting production, and production can vary from whichever type of plant you have. For sunflowers, for example, I focus on head size and leaf size. The bigger the leaves, that means there's more eating surface for the deer and a better chance to fill its belly faster. Out this way, because I've used this strip several times as an example, and it's just loaded with different examples of production or even growth. I mean, you take your pick. There's plenty to go with in this 10-foot wide strip. So we focus on soil health, and by soil health, that means you're adding nutrition to the ground that is lacking. You are also picking plants that will assist your soil, encourage bacteria, make the roots more efficient, build new soil. There's all kinds of little bullet points there. And if you're trying to check off as many goals or of those check boxes as possible, production can ramp up really nicely in your plants. So I have growing production, which is the leaf sizes in this plant. The bigger they are, the faster I can fill a deer up. And usually when you talk about plants being larger, that means the nutritional value produced by this plant is going to be much higher than a plant in poor ground. So if you're planting a food plot in poor soil and you're not helping it to get better, your deer are not going to reflect a lot of change. You might add some additional weight to the deer, some antler size. I mean, it's not going to be a lot unless you're really going to work at it. You really have to focus on soil health as your priority if you have poor soil. You may not have that, and my goals are going to be totally different than some of your guys' goals. Mine is to focus on restoring the ground, providing the best nutrition I possibly can, because if the deer leave my area, the nutritional level drops off because the soil around me is poor. It has been generations of farmers and cattle farmers, and the hay fields around here struggle for a lot of farmers. So I'm doing the complete opposite. I'm reviving the ground, and by doing so, I'm gaining plant size, production increases, and the deer size has increased. When I first started this program, a lot of the deer around here that were first time growing antlered deer were either spikes, 3 or 4 points. If you saw a young 4 point, you're like, man, that one's got a lot of good potential. And now, because I've raised the nutritional level in the soil, my young bucks are growing as many as 7 to even 8 points year one. I've had one buck, which is Mr. Clean. If you go back and look at my videos in there, he's the second video I've posted in the channel. That is Mr. Clean, and he is now going to be a 4-year-old this year. Nobody got him, and that deer had a better nutritional level and nearly grew 9 legal points. He got close, nearly 9, but he had 7 that counted. That is a fantastic jump. My plants do the exact same thing. When it comes to production, my plants have jumped in size and production, and my deer have followed suit. So here we have many good examples of poor production versus good production. And let's go to the grain side of things here. So let's look at this. That is a raunchy black oil sunflower. That is an extremely poor growing plant, and it's growing in poor soil. Sorghum, same thing. This is probably about the average size head I'll get in here, maybe a little smaller than that. And that is a poor size milo head or sorghum head. Same thing, that is tiny, very, very small. So let's focus on what good production can bring. You have the growing season production, which is big leaf sizes. That means more nutrition while the antlers are growing. And then you have the aftermath, the grain side of things. So you want grains to grow or have grains available during the fall and winter. Here is a head that's bigger. It's more than 3 times the size of that other head. That has more seeds, it has more nutrition in the seeds. But let's go down here. Here is a black oil sunflower that is growing in restored soil. Look at how much better that looks. Those seeds are twice the size, if not 3 times the size, of that tiny head I had over there for the first example. If your deer are eating black oil sunflower seeds, the nutritional value is much better in this one. That's what I focus on. I want all my plants to give me the best nutrition return as possible. And because I've added fertilizer in here, the production value has increased, but it's not going to increase for the sunflowers. It's basically too late for them. I mean, it just might help a few of those that are really late to the show, but I kind of doubt it. And even here, this strip has not really been in my restored area long enough to get good returns. And you see tiny soybean. So imagine, you want to see poor soil? That's what I used to get, guys. Now let's take this leaf and let's compare it to a soybean plant that's not even near full size yet. All right, so this leaf here can grow 3 or 4 times this size easy. So we have that. Imagine the size my plot would have to be to make up for such poor ground. My plot would have to be every bit of 5 to 6, maybe even 7 acres to cover the amount of food I produce in this one zone. And this is a 1 acre size food plot. And I could easily produce, with the way the ground's accelerating here, I have been able to produce soybeans at a rate of 1,000 times more than what I started with initially. My soybean, and I've been planting this same soybean ever since I started. The soybean used to get 2 feet tall. I was so excited if I saw soybean 2 feet tall. That is how poor the ground was. So my pod production was really, really bad. Now I started hammering away at getting the ground better, dumping all kinds of trace minerals in here, ramping up the fertilizer to load the ground up, and then I started selecting better plants to increase the soil's nutritional value. I started planting plants that will assist me in soil restoring, not just sticking a whole bunch of clover out and only fixing one thing, which would be nitrogen. These plants fix all kinds of other issues in my soil, and they get bigger and bigger every year. At some point I will find the maximum for here, but as long as my production continues to climb, I am very satisfied with it. Just an example, I went from 2 foot tall soybean with super tiny leaves like I showed you, and some of them were bigger than that. You know, some of them were the size that I showed you here. But the soybean last year was 6 to 7 feet deep. My pod production was out the yin yang, and they lasted until almost April. As a matter of fact, I had soybean pods that were dropping seed and trying to sprout new soybean while I tilled down my cereal rye. I've never had that happen before. And because my production value keeps climbing, that is going to become more of a common theme unless the deer herd numbers rapidly increase. And I don't have that problem yet. They either get hit by cars, they either get killed by legal hunters or illegal hunters, coyotes, I mean, even bears can do it, hogs. You mess with a hog, you never know what you're going to get with them. So there's all kinds of things that are checks and balances to the deer herd. But right now, production should be my #1 goal. And if you have soil that's even similar to mine, you need to have production super high on your list. In order to achieve that goal, you're going to have to add nutrition to your soil. If you don't, you're going to be stuck with whatever the ground can provide you, and it may look pretty darn crappy. And to me, this is pretty crappy, but I can tell the fertilizer is working now. The soybean, mung bean, all that stuff is rapidly taking off and is now becoming the dominant feature in this strip. And I figured that's probably what would happen, and it's really showing it a whole lot more now than it was a week ago. Things change pretty quickly once your plants have healthy ground to go with, and your deer can obviously follow suit. So remember that, guys. The better you make your plots, the better your deer can be as well. I hope you enjoy this video, and there's all kinds of other tips I could give out, but I am under time constraints because there is a lot of thunder and lightning back here, and I need to get to the house before I get struck by lightning or get downpoured on. So you all have a great day. Remember, if you like this content, hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll try to provide you with some better videos down the road. Have a good one.